Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a high-speed journey to completely demystify one of the most advanced pieces of technology on the planet. We're peeling back the layers of a Formula One car, literally going from the slick, aerodynamic outside all the way into the hyper-complex core. If you've ever watched a race and wondered how on earth these machines defy physics, well, you're in the right place. Let's strip away the mystery and see exactly how these cars are built to dominate.
Okay, let's dive into this blueprint. We're going to start with shaping the wind, then explore the core and suspension, dive into hybrid power and braking, check out the cockpit and safety systems, and finally dissect the ultimate steering wheel.
Section 1. Shaping the wind. Exterior aerodynamics. You know, to a Formula One car, the air is both its biggest obstacle and its greatest weapon. And to understand this, you really have to understand downforce. Think about how the front wing curves upward. This intentionally forces the air to move in a way that builds a high-pressure area above the car and a low pressure beneath it, literally suctioning the whole thing down to the track. And where these pressure zones meet at the edges, the air crashes into itself, forming these spiraling vortices. Now, while these vortices do cause drag that slows the car down, they're also brilliantly used to sort of seal in the clean air passing under the car.
But here's a massive challenge I want you to consider. How do these cars handle all the turbulent, so-called dirty air? Because remember, F1 cars don't have fenders over their wheels. Those massive, open tires are spinning violently, churning up this unpredictable, chaotic airflow that is absolutely useless for generating downforce. So how does the car survive its own aerodynamic wake?
Well, here is how the car manages that chaos. Right behind the front tires, you have what are called barge boards, and they step in to basically condition and push that dirty air away from the body. Meanwhile, the car's floor has a forward tilt, or rake, which squeezes the air underneath to create a massive area of low pressure. Out the back, a diffuser equipped with vertical vanes amplifies this whole effect, controlling the huge vortices pouring out from beneath. Basically, the entire floor becomes a giant downforce generator. Which brings us to DRS, or the drag reduction system. So the rear wing is this massive downforce generator. But when you hit a straightaway, you want top speed, right? Not suction. So an actuator literally tilts a section of the rear wing, dumping the drag and allowing the car to just rocket forward for overtaking. But because current aerodynamic setups leave this incredibly wide, dirty wake that makes it super hard for trailing cars to get close, future aero regulations are actually completely focused on changing this airflow pattern to encourage tighter, closer racing. Section 2. The core and suspension, under the skin.
Okay, so now that we've peeled back that aerodynamic shell, you might actually be shocked to find out that there is no traditional chassis frame underneath. None. Instead, the car relies on just 3 ultra-rigid sections bolted together: the carbon fiber shell, which is known as the monocoque, the engine block itself, and the gearbox enclosure. Every single other component mounts directly to these surfaces or lives inside them. The engine isn't just sitting in the car, it literally is the structural spine of the car.
Let's look at how the wheels connect to that spine, because the suspension is remarkably clever. The front uses push rods with simple flexure joints that are actually designed to bend under load. But the rear, that uses pull rods and spherical bearings. And why the difference? Because of the intense heat. The rear suspension sits right next to the blazing hot engine exhaust, so it needs those specialized bearings. Plus, to avoid ruining all the aerodynamics we just talked about, almost all of these carbon fiber bonded components are densely packaged, totally out of the wind, hidden completely inside the bodywork.
Now, keeping the car's vertical position, or what's called heave, perfectly stable is absolutely vital so the floor aerodynamics work correctly. But you are definitely not going to find standard large coil springs in here. Instead, small metal torsion bars twist under load. And for heave specifically, they use a remarkably specialized spring made of a stack of flexible, cone-shaped washers that compress together. Then, a central roll bar links the independent sides to limit body roll during those insane high-G corners. Section 3. Hybrid power and braking, the powertrain. Stepping into the mechanical heart of the machine, let's look at how the engine actually breathes. It's a highly pressurized, completely pneumatic journey. First, the compressor draws in massive amounts of air. And since compressing air creates intense heat, that air is immediately routed to an intercooler tucked into the car's side pod. Once cooled down, it rushes into intake plenums designed to balance the pressure before these specially tuned trumpets fire that dense, oxygen-rich air directly into the cylinders of the split-turbo V6 engine.
But listen, that V6 engine is only half the story. F1 cars are wildly advanced hybrids that utilize an energy recovery system, or ERS, and this relies on two incredible pieces of tech. First, the MGUH, which recovers excess heat energy straight from the red-hot turbo exhaust gases. Second, the MGUK, which recovers kinetic energy from the rear braking forces. Both of these units basically act as generators to charge the onboard battery while the car is flying around the track.
Now, what is truly staggering about that 160 number is the sheer scale of the energy recovery. When the battery sends power back to the MGUK, which is geared directly to the crankshaft, it can deploy up to 160 extra horsepower. That is literally the equivalent of an entire separate small car engine being instantly added to the powertrain, all generated simply from recovering braking forces and exhaust heat. Just incredible.
Speaking of braking, stopping a car from over 200 miles per hour creates a literal thermal nightmare. The friction is immense. So to solve this, the entire inner wheel assembly is covered by ducted carbon fiber shrouds, and the carbon brake discs themselves are actually drilled with thousands of tiny cooling holes radiating from the center outward. The driver can even adjust the pressure balance between the front and rear brakes right on the fly, using an electronic brake bias screw.
And to feed this roaring machine, the car carries between 30 to 40 gallons of fuel. Since pit stop refueling is banned, this has to last the entire race, demanding extreme efficiency of about 4 to 6 miles per gallon. This fuel sits in a puncture-proof Kevlar cell right behind the driver. And to prevent dozens of gallons of liquid from violently sloshing around and throwing off the car's balance during intense cornering, the tank is meticulously packed with internal baffles and one-way valves.
Section 4. Cockpit and Safety Systems. The driver's domain.
Looking at the driver's domain, the engineering links gone to protect the human element are just brilliant. The driver sits entirely inside that indestructible carbon fiber monocoque cocoon we talked about earlier. Above their head is the halo, a specifically designed titanium structure to deflect massive impacts. You've got tethers ensuring the wheels don't fly off during a crash, front and rear impact structures, and the driver wears a Hans device strapped directly to their helmet to prevent fatal neck snapping during rapid deceleration.
You know, the seating position itself is uniquely extreme. The driver doesn't sit like you or I do in a normal road car. They sit highly reclined, almost like they're laying semi-upright in a hammock, with their feet elevated. The seat is perfectly custom molded to their exact body shape, and a 6-point harness firmly pins them in place. They even have specialized spoilers on their helmet to combat shifting air pressures, and a drinks tube routed right to their mouth to prevent severe dehydration under all that immense physical strain.
Section 5. The ultimate steering wheel. Total control.
This right here is the intensely complex interface where the driver commands everything. The steering wheel isn't even round, largely because the driver rarely needs to move their hands from the 9 and 3 o'clock positions. Now, the face of the wheel is a daunting array of controls, but we can easily break them down. A central display and top LEDs give instant feedback on revs and lap times. A series of dials allows on-the-fly adjustments to brake bias, engine mapping, and ERS deployment. And finally, dedicated buttons trigger specific driving modes, like engaging the DRS flap, activating pit lane speed limits, or unleashing maximum overtake power. Flipping to the back of the wheel, you'll find the paddle shifters for snapping rapidly up and down through the 8-speed gearbox, but fascinatingly, sitting right alongside them are the clutch paddles. And here is the incredible part. In a Formula One car, the clutch is literally only used for the initial explosive race start off the grid. Once the car is actually in motion, the clutch is completely bypassed for gear shifting.
Deep down in the footwell, the gas pedal actually features custom contours that wrap perfectly around the driver's foot to prevent any accidental slipping between the accelerator and the brake. And everywhere else? Sensors are constantly monitoring the harmony between human and machine. A pitot tube on the nose measures airspeed, microphones pick up exact exhaust notes, and the driver's custom-molded earplugs even house tiny accelerometers to track their exact head movement during a race. Talk about data.
From the air-bending front wing, through the carbon fiber skeleton, past those hybrid power units, and straight into the hands of the driver, the anatomy of this machine is simply staggering. It's a masterclass in extreme physics. Which leaves us with one final, thrilling thought. With all these wildly complex systems working in brutal harmony at over 200 miles per hour, what seemingly impossible engineering boundary will Formula One break next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your curiosity revving.